What if I told you that the secret to navigating today's chaotic world could be found in a playbook that's over 2,300 years old? We're about to dive into an ancient philosophy that isn't just some dusty relic. It's a shockingly relevant guide for modern leadership, business, and even politics. It sounds a little crazy, right? But that's the big question we're exploring today. We're going to see how this ancient wisdom gives us an incredibly powerful lens to understand our biggest challenges, from the corporate boardroom all the way to the world stage. So, to really understand the playbook, we first have to meet the guy who wrote it. We're heading way back to the 4th century BCE to meet a man named Acharya Chanakya. You know, some people compare him to Machiavelli, but Chanakya was doing his thing nearly 2,000 years earlier. Chanakya was a true force of nature, a teacher, a strategist, an economist. He was the brilliant mind behind the rise of the massive Mauryan Empire, the so-called kingmaker who helped Chandragupta Maurya unite the entire Indian subcontinent. And he poured all of his knowledge into his masterpiece, the Arthashastra, which is basically the ultimate instruction manual on how to build, run, and protect a successful state. And this quote, this tells you everything you need to know about his worldview. Chanakya was a stone-cold realist. He saw people as fundamentally unpredictable, kind of like a horse that could be calm one minute and spooked the next. And he believed that any successful system, whether it's a government or a company, has to be built on this clear-eyed, maybe even slightly cynical understanding of human nature. This is the foundation for everything that follows. So, how did he organize all this wisdom? Well, the best way to look at the Arthashastra isn't as just a book. Think of it more like a complete operating system for power, an OS that can run any organization from an ancient kingdom to a modern tech giant. Let's unpack its core programming. Okay, at the heart of this operating system is something called the Saptanga Theory. The name literally means 7 limbs. Chanakya's big idea was that any organization is like a living body. For it to be healthy and strong, 7 key parts have to work together perfectly. If one limb is weak, the whole body's in danger. Simple, but profound. And this is where it gets just wild. The parallels to today are shockingly direct. Check this out. Raja, or the king's governance, is just corporate governance. Amatya, his ministers, are today's leadership team and managers. Janapada, the people, that's your employees and stakeholders. And look at Durga, the fortified city. Today, that is literally cybersecurity and digital infrastructure. The treasury is capital, the army is your workforce's capability, and your allies are your global partners. It's a complete blueprint, just waiting for us. Now, powering this whole operating system is a certain way of thinking he called Anvikshiki. You can translate it as the science of inquiry. It's basically a commitment to critical thinking, to using logic, reason, and hard evidence to make your calls, instead of just going with gut feelings or old traditions. It's the analytical engine that makes those 7 pillars actually work. All right, so let's pull all this theory into the real world. I mean, it's cool to see the parallels on a chart, but how does this ancient philosophy actually show up in a 21st century boardroom? This quote gets to the heart of Chanakya's leadership style. He's saying a leader's success is directly tied to the well-being of their people. But listen, this isn't just some feel-good platitude. For him, it was pure strategy. He knew that happy, well-cared-for people are loyal, productive, and innovative. This is the Janapada pillar in action, the idea that your people are your most critical asset. And you see this principle everywhere in modern leadership. When Indra Nooyi was the CEO of PepsiCo, she would write personal letters to the parents of her senior executives. What a powerful way to show you value someone. Or look at Dan Price, who famously slashed his own huge salary to give every single one of his employees a living wage. And HCL Technologies literally built its whole strategy around a simple idea: employee first, customer second. That is pure Chanakya. In fact, this whole philosophy is baked into the DNA of some of India's most successful corporations. Companies like Infosys and the Tata Group had become global giants by focusing on ethical governance, that's Raja, employee welfare, Janapada, and long-term financial stability, Kosa. They proved that this ancient integrated model flat out works. But this framework isn't just for businesses. It scales. Chanakya's system is just as potent when you zoom out from the boardroom and look at the massive, complex chessboard of global politics. This is probably his most famous geopolitical idea, the Mandala Theory. At its core, it's a very simple concept we've all heard before. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The theory says that the country you share a border with is your natural rival because you're competing for the same land and resources. So logically, the nation on the other side of your rival, they become your natural friend. Let's break that down. Your ally, or mitra, shares a common problem with you, that neighbor in the middle. This creates an automatic alignment of interests, giving you a huge strategic advantage. Meanwhile, your neighbor, your Ari, is always going to be a source of pressure. It's a cold, calculated way of looking at the world for sure, but history has shown it's remarkably accurate. Now, to navigate this complicated world, Chanakya didn't just offer one solution. He provided a whole toolkit for foreign policy. It was so much more than just war and peace. He laid out this flexible six-part strategy. You could make a peace treaty, use economic deals to win friends, use force but only if you had to, stay neutral, or even partner up with a stronger nation for protection. It's a masterclass in strategic thinking, demanding that a leader have the right tool for any situation. So, after touring the boardroom and the world map, we gotta ask, what does all this mean for us, right now? What's the final takeaway from this incredible ancient playbook? At the end of the day, the Saptanga Theory is so powerful because it's a complete, holistic blueprint for success. It's not just a list of tips. It reminds us that leadership, your people, your security, your finances, your partnerships, none of these things exist in a vacuum. They are all deeply connected. For any organization to survive and thrive, all 7 of those pillars have to be strong. And that leaves us with one last, kind of mind-bending question to think about. Chanakya's ideas have survived for over 2,000 years. So as we talk about our modern solutions and new ways of thinking, are we really inventing anything new? Or are we just rediscovering a timeless, ancient blueprint for how to build things that last?